Here's the thing. The moment you and I choose to follow Jesus, we automatically inherit three enemies that we have to fight as we make the journey. Let's talk about these enemies. The first enemy is Satan. Yep. And he is the greatest enemy of all. The Bible has many names for him: the serpent, the dragon, the devil, Lucifer. Jesus called him a liar, thief, a murderer from the beginning. Not someone you want to hang around. He's a subtle deceiver, and before you know that you may be traveling down a path that Satan has designed for you. Kind of rough when you think about it. The second enemy, though, is the world. John says, "Love not the world, nor the things of the world. If any man loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him." These enemies were not always enemies. The world was created perfect, as was Lucifer. But something happened. And if our forefathers had stayed faithful, our world would not be as hostile as it is today. The third enemy is much closer to home. It is the flesh, yours and my desires that often lead us astray, all because of sin. Lucifer touched the world, and here we are. Now, the devil knows how these things work. He often uses the world's things to draw out the desires and passions of the flesh so that we might lose the battle against sin. These three enemies are ruthless. They work together. These enemies do not care about one's profession. They do not regard time and place, and they're opportunists. One slip into the territory where all three are working together and disastrous results will follow. The wages of sin is death. Satan will stir up tumult and strife in the world, and the flesh will respond with unquenchable anger, and death will follow. Satan will make sex cheap, covered under the shadow of darkness, to draw the flesh's lust, which will lead one to sins that are hard to break free from, and death will follow. Satan knows to bind the soul fast. You and I must remember that the world fell apart when the devil used a device that Eve desired, that led to divisions, and death followed. James' response to the world right now is this in James chapter 4, verses 1 through 4. What causes quarrels and what causes fights among you? Is it not this, that your passions are at war within you? You desire and you do not have, so you murder. You covet and cannot obtain, so you fight and quarrel. You do not have because you do not ask. You ask and you do not receive because you ask wrongly, to spend it on your passions. You adulterous people, do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with God? Therefore, whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. Now, what is the solution? Pastor, that sounds very dismal. Here's what I want to tell you. What we need right now is not pride. We need humility. What we need now is not more speeches. We need more prayers. What we need right now is not more hate, but love. What we really need is pure religion. If my people who are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and heal their land. 2 Chronicles 7:14 is what Solomon prayed. James reflects this wisdom when he said in James 4:6 through 9, but he gives more grace, that is speaking of God. Therefore it says, God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Submit yourselves therefore to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. This is the solution. He will flee from you. Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. Cleanse your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts, you double-minded. Be wretched and mourn and weep. Let your laughter be turned to mourning and your joy to gloom. The past couple months have been gloomy. And I believe to win this great fight against these cruel enemies in the world, we need grace. And we can only receive grace when we take the posture of humility. We need submission to God to resist the devil at each turn. We need not draw to the side of politicians who think they can solve the world's issues. We need to draw near to God. What we need right now are clean hands, not dirty ones that continue to work to fuel the fire of hatred, anger, and despair. We need hearts that are purified, ones that beat with compassion for our brothers and sisters who are hurting. Seeing the things around us, we ought to weep for the sad plight of unsaved humanity. We need to plead the case for those who are trapped by the enemy as we draw near to God for protection from his devices. We need what James says here in James chapter 1 and verse 27. Pure religion and undefiled before God and the Father is this: to visit orphans and widows in their trouble, and to keep oneself unspotted from the world.